Hello everyone, this is James Shore with another test-driven JavaScript video. I'm recording this on September 10th, 2012, and I'm picking up a couple hours after the last time I recorded. And what I'd like to do is, well, get this application deployed. When we finished off last time, we had our smoke test working, and if we run the application manually, we actually, on an arbitrary port, we actually see it run. Now this homepage is not so good, and I'm really hoping that somebody out there one of you watching will come up with something a little nicer. But there we go. There is our application, bare bones though it is. And now what I'd like to do is actually get this deployed to the web. So I did some research into what all the different hosts that support Node.js. And those were Node, N-O-D-E, which has been discontinued, so kill that, Nodejitsu, and Heroku. And Nodejitsu just, I want to like it. I really want to like it, but it doesn't actually seem to be quite there yet. They don't have any paid options. The documentation for it is actually quite minimalistic so far. For example, let's say the application dies. Will it come back up? Well, I don't know. All their documentation is sort of this marketing speak. So I think it's got a lot of promise. The thing I liked about it best is that it uses a Node, an NPM module to do the install, which means that we could install Jitsu locally and actually have everything we need to be deployed as part of our directory structure. And that would be great because, as I've mentioned before, I really want my entire application to be self-contained. I don't want to rely on anything outside of the Git repository, because that means that when somebody checks this out on a new machine, they've got dependencies that they have to install. I don't want to do that. So I really like Nodejitsu, but it just looks immature. The next option is Heroku, and this is quite mature. And so this is what I'm going to go ahead and use. They've got great documentation. They've been around a long time. There are some flaws with Heroku. They rely on Amazon as their sort of underlying infrastructure, and they are in a single part of Amazon. They're in the East Coast, Amazon East. And whenever Amazon East goes down, so do all the Heroku applications in the world. So that's a bit of a problem, and that does tend to happen. So availability can be a bit of a problem with Heroku. The other, a fourth option other than Node.de or Nodejitsu or Heroku would be to roll our own, but that might be something we look at in a later episode. So I think Heroku is what I'm going to use, and I'm going to go ahead and do this. So what we need to do is I'm going to sign up. I'll do that off camera. We install the Heroku tool belt, which is just some various pieces, Heroku client, Foreman, and Git. And this is something I don't like about Heroku. The Heroku client installs globally rather than into our repository. So all of you are going to have to install it manually. Although honestly, you won't be able to do releases unless you change things around. Then I will log in, and I'll probably come back on camera for that, and then we'll deploy. And of course, as with everything else in this series, we're going to test drive our deployment. So back in a moment. Okay, I'm back. I have signed up for a Heroku account, which was a painless process, and I've also downloaded and installed the Heroku tool belt, which was also a painless process. And now I have Heroku on my system, and now it says I should log in. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Okay, that's done. That was fairly painless as well. Now we need to deploy an application. So before we do that, so I'm going to go ahead and look at the instructions for deploying an application. But before we do that, I really want to do this test driven. I don't want to just deploy it. I want to write a test to prove that it's been deployed properly. You can simulate running your application on Heroku by running Foreman. The way Heroku works is you create a proc file, a file named proc file, that tells Heroku what you want to run, and it will And Foreman will look in that same file and run the same code. I don't know if this is making sense. Let's go ahead and just try it. So the way it works is that here in our smoke test, we say, when we run the server, we say spawn node with a particular URL. Instead of doing that, we're going to spawn, because that's not how Heroku's going to run. What we're going to do is we're going to spawn Foreman, which will run our application in exactly the same way that Heroku would. So Foreman is the name of the app, and the way you run it is you say Foreman start. Now that's not going to work. So let's go ahead and change this so it does the same thing. So now, if we run our Jake file, it's going to fail. Now, it doesn't show why it failed, but we can see it by doing this. And, you know, some of this test could possibly be a little more, provide a little more help when it fails, but it's not supposed to fail. So I'm not so worried about that. So the way Foreman works is it expects there to be a proc file, and let's see if we can find the instructions for the proc file. So in your proc file, you're going to have web : and then the name of the application to run and $port for the port it's going to run on. You can use whatever names you want in here, but web is special. Heroku will only let the processes named web talk to the internet. So let's go ahead and make that proc file. It's just called proc file, and what we want to do is we want to say node source server wikipaint.js port, and I think that's it. Let's try checking the proc file. Okay, that's good. Let's try starting Foreman. All right, that's a really good sign. So now we should be able to go over here. Oh, and Foreman uses 5000 rather than 8080. There, look at that. Awesome. Awesome, awesome. And then to kill it, we just break out. Okay, so now we need to make our smoke test do the same thing. It's going to talk to 5000. Just reminds me we need to factor out that common server name. Now I don't think Jake's going to work just yet, and the reason is that when we run Foreman, it gives us this information, and this is not coming out in the same way that our test is expecting. So it's going to hang here forever waiting for that to come up. So what we need to do, let's try that. Still not working. Let's log what's coming out of there. May come out of standard error now. That's interesting. So we're running the child process, but none of the data is coming out. Why not? When we run it manually, it's working. Is it dying? No, it's not dying. Well, I'm not sure what's going on here. I think I'm going to do a little research into this and then pick up in the next episode because we are out of time. So next time we will continue on getting this running as if it was running on Heroku using Foreman, and then we will migrate to actually running it on Heroku proper. So thanks very much for watching, everybody. I will catch you next time.